Hello YouTube family, James Green, Short Series Shenanigans. So this is going to be episode 2 of sheet metal working. Got our hat on here today. Today happens to be Veterans Day 2016. So I'm a veteran, and all my other veteran friends out there, happy Veterans Day to all veterans. And so we know this video is going to be on YouTube for quite some time. So thanks guys, appreciate it, and we got to remember the ones that didn't make it. Anyway, moving right along. So as you guys know, All Industrial Tool Supply is my channel sponsor, or one of them I should say. Also would like to give a shout out to Drill Hog. They have great products, you guys. Holler at me if you have any questions about anything. eagledustoff37@gmail.com. Would also like to give a big shout out to American Rotary. You guys, if you have, like me, a garage setup and you want to get three-phase equipment like my mill and my surface grinder, look up American Rotary. I guess I consider them a channel sponsor as well, because they've really been gracious and helpful, and matter of fact, we'll even mention here, they sent me, Chris Favel sent me, and I put it up here out of ease, a remote start for my rotary phase converter. I wired it in, so now I don't have to go over behind. I can just reach up here and there you go. They send you some very, very easy to read directions with it. They're very handy, so if you guys do get a, like I've got the ADX series, and it's very, very handy. I love it. It's great. Give them a call. It's worth it. They've got lifetime guarantee on their products. So anyway, there we go. I just figured I'd give a shout out to a few of my favorite tool people. Again, I always buy this stuff, guys, and I fully support them. They're also supporters of the Summer Bash out at Stan Zukowski's, and so every year so far they have been. Anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll get started. What we've got up here, and the reason I use I know some people are going to say don't do that, but you know what? It's mine and I can do it. I've got the Bridgeport set up here, and it's a small import pan brake and finger brake, and I picked this up at the Bash from an individual. I've been wanting a good little brake for doing small jobs, and there's no difference than having this up here than if I was to set up a dividing head or vise, or a couple milling vices, or a turntable. Again, we're not abusing anything, and I'm limited on table space, so this works out really good. You just lower the knee and it's clamped down. That's the main thing. And when I get done, I can take and set it back over behind my lathe. So you guys know I'm very, very limited on space. You can see I've got some bigger pieces of sheet metal in the background there. I went to Super Metal Mart, picked up some more sheet metal. I've got some projects in the house that I'm going to be working on, and I talked a little bit about those on social media. But we're going to continue on with what we talked about, and I will go ahead and show you guys a little bit here. I'll move the camera. I don't want to move it up and down. Whoop. Just so to kind of clarify what we're working on. All right, so down here, let me go ahead and lower it so the camera is going to act real bumpy. Here we go. All right. So, this is the Boyer Schultz Challenger 2A surface grinder. Here's the hydraulic unit for it. So, as you guys know, I got this at the Bash. I did some trading with Andrew Padaka, and I went through and I overhauled it, refurbished it. I've got the tray here where I can do flood coolant. And what I use up there is, we'll talk about that later when I do more surface grinding stuff. But what it is, there's one thing that's missing on here, and it has been missing. When I got this, it was covered in oil. The oiling system on this is actually a waste oil system, okay? Meaning, as the oiler pumps, it pumps oil and feeds the waves, and it's supposed to drain down through, you can see here, as it does, into the top of this, and then it drains into a puke tube into a canister at the back. It's a total waste oil system. So there's actually, on each side of the bed here, there's supposed to be a small, because I've found some pictures of them online and old display, or not display, but brochures from vintagemachinery.org. If you guys are looking for stuff, a friend of mine, Keith Rucker, vintagemachinery.org, if you're looking for manuals or reference to, this was another thing. It's like, okay, I was able to look and determine there is actually supposed to be a guard, because it's drilled and tapped, and someone has actually re-drilled and tapped this for and they've installed a stop. Okay, this wasn't on here. This is something that they've added, is what it looks like to me. But there's supposed to be a guard on here that'll catch the oil as it drips off, because as you can see, I've got a pig mat here that catches all the oil as this thing, when I've got it on hydraulic mode. Now the hydraulics aren't leaking. What it is, it's the oil. When it comes out, it drips off the bottom and lands here, and it does a little bit. It's more so worse on this side because how it's set up. So what we're going to be doing is building some covers, and they're going to be somewhat rectangular shaped. They're going to have a little bit of a trough is what we're going to make. So essentially we're going to make is, I guess we'll call it a gutter, oil gutter, and so we're going to bend this up, and we're going to have two for each side. They're going to mirror each other, and that's the project. We're going to be working on sheet metal. So I'll go ahead and raise the camera back up here to get you guys a good view. Again, I didn't know how many episodes this was going to take. Move the camera back over here so you guys get a good view. All right. So I've already done the measurements, and I wanted to show you as much as I could online. So if you're curious, a lot of this stuff, here's a catalog from All Industrial Tool Supply, page 638, 639. They do have pan brakes, and if you guys are interested, they actually do have this stuff. Stomp shears, slip rolls, you name it, hand tools, notchers. They've got metalworking tools in here. 2016 Master Catalog, give them a holler. They're going to be getting the new website up and running soon, at the time as this video is publishing. So we've got a couple of pieces of metal here. I've already done my basic measurements. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys back there, and I'm just going to talk you through it as I do it here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and use the full length of this. And this is one of my old squares. I've had this thing forever. I actually glass beaded it off here a couple of years ago. That's why it's kind of ashen looking. But I like this one. This was given to me when I was a kid. This thing is really old, handy. I even got a new one over there that I used. But this is I can't even make out the maker's mark on it. But anyway, I like it. It's handy, and it's steel, all American made. And it actually goes down to 1/8 inch. And 1/16 if we need to for sheet metal purposes. Down to 1/8 of an inch is going to actually be good enough for what we're doing. So to talk about, and I'm just going to draw this, and I'm going to really exaggerate it here a little bit. What we're going to be doing is making essentially a trough. Okay, so instead of it just being flat on the bottom, we're actually going to put a little bit of if you will, we're going to make it V'd a little bit on the bottom, and I'll show that when we make it. And then to actually make it, when we go to put the holes in it to mount it, how we put our holes in it and fasten it is actually going to give it a little bit of slope, so it goes toward the drain. Basic, simple layout. Okay, this is going to be very rudimentary. So I know on each side that needs to come up, it needs to be 1 inch. Okay, that's what I've determined that'll work for me, and where I'm going to place my holes. And then across the bottom is going to be 4 inches. Okay, that's if we're going to do an exact rectangle. Well, we're going to have, this is going to have a little bit of a V in the bottom. So let's go ahead and add, this is the nice thing about this. You can play with it, and it doesn't have to be a whole lot of a real deep V. So I'm going to actually add a 1/2 inch to the total width. Since we're going to use the length, we don't have to worry about that. So we're going to actually lay out our marks, and I'll go ahead and, matter of fact, I need to get my notches real quick. Okay. So we talked about these in the other video. Let me grab them real quick. We'll go ahead and use them just because it makes this a lot quicker instead of using a set of hand nippers. Okay, so there we go. So our layout, and that's why it's nice to have this setup here. I'm going to do it like this because it's, and these are both going to be made the same exactly. So what I like to do is I slide my ruler in here a little bit, and actually we need to start here at the bottom. So we're going to make this 1.25 inches. Actually, we're going to make this 1 inch because we're going to mark for our bends. So 1 inch. And let's see, inside we're going to go 6 inches. Actually, we're going to go 6.5. So let's go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is going to be 7.5. And then we add 1 more inch, so we're going to go 8.5. Okay, so this is where we're going to make this longer in the middle by 1/2 inch, just so we can have that again. And we have plenty of room where we're going to be able to fold this down. So all we need to do, so we're at 1, 7.5, 8.5. Flip it over, same thing, just mirror it. It's real simple. This is just basic layout stuff. So we're 1, 7.5, and then 8.5. Now, let's go ahead and mark both of them while we're at it. We're going to do same. So this is real easy to do. Instead of running and marking again, you can just slide your metal over to the side because these are the exact same sizes. Just slide over, make our little marks real quick. Again, this is the down and dirty, how to get it done fast. You don't have to measure. For what we're doing, we're not machining something down to the, 1/10 of an inch or anything like that. Sheet metal for what we're doing is very forgiving, and we don't have to get down into the very nitnoid measurements like we did do normal machining. So don't try to notch 2 pieces at once. Trust me, it's because you're creating more thickness. So then you just take, and you need to go in just a little bit, and this is how that way you don't have to draw lines, and I'll show you here in a little bit. We're just going to go ahead and notch this, and I know I've got you guys back a little bit. You don't have to go in all the way to the, you can go in all the way to the deep. You can go, what I'm saying is you don't have to run this all the way up into the full throat of it, because it's just going to be a relief for marking. So I generally go about halfway. Make sure we're and it makes a nice little V notch. Okay. Now, this one, because we need to cut this across, almost got ahead of myself there. Grab our Sharpie. We need to cut this all the way across here. So we got to mark this real quick. Again, doing this and trying to shoot a video and talk, sometimes you get ahead of yourself at times and forget things. So we are going to cut this off here. So let's go ahead and make a mark. And let's make this mark where we're at. So that was something we forgot to do. Okay, so we're there and there. Make a mark across. Alright. Those are out of the way. Let's go ahead and notch all these real quick. Again, talking about it and doing it, you can actually knock it out pretty quick. We got all our notches put and everything. Again, you don't have to go all the way full depth. This is purely so when it folds at the corners, it's a relief. Plus it marks, so when you put it in the break, it's your line-up marks. Okay, those are done. Now we're just going to go ahead and we're going to cut this all the way across with a pair of sheet metal snips. And these are the big ones. This is for doing the big stuff. Putting it on the table allows you to use the table as a fulcrum, if you will. You use mechanical advantage. Trying to do it in the air like this is difficult for long cuts, but that's what they're designed for. Plus, you can sit here, you can line up your shears. And you always want to pull the left-hand side up. Alright, and just let that fold the floor out of the way. Okay, there we go. Those two pieces. We're even going to be using our Whitney Punch. You don't have to go buy a Whitney brand punch. The import ones will work just fine. I've had this one for a long time and I've used it quite a bit and it works very well. So, let me go ahead and show you guys over here. I'm going to try to get you over my shoulder so you can see what's going on here. So, okay. Alright. So, all we're going to do with these two pieces, alright, and we've got our little notches that we made here, okay? These are where we're going to line up on the ends. All you do is you come in here on this particular brake. It's just got one handle on one side, and we're going to, where the fold is actually back there. It's kind of weird how it sets up. You come in here and you put it right at the beginning. And you're going to put it right where, and you lock it, and all we're going to do is fold 90 degrees straight up. There we go, boom. Alright, and same here. Now, you can go ahead and fold this 90 and it'll be a little difficult to get what we need, but I'm going to go ahead and show you, and I'm going to do it this way for a reason. There's plenty of room to move it. Let's go ahead and fold this 90 degrees. Okay, so we've got our trough made. Now, we talked about we wanted to make this, and that's a nice thing about, you know, it being, you can actually pull one of these out for what we need to do. So if you wanted to make, which we could, let's just make a little mark here in the middle real quick. I'll go ahead and swing you guys back over here on the table so you can see. Again, there's a lot of different ways to do this. This doesn't have to be exact. It's just going to be a little trough in the bottom. So if we wanted to do, we can just eyeball this literally. Look in the middle and go, okay, this is about the center. And this is about the center, okay? It doesn't have to be exact. Again, this is going to be, we're going to put a little bit of a V in the bottom of this. So you've got a general mark. We'll come back over here, all right? And that's another way you do it. You just slide it in there like that. And all you got to do, you just need to find, and what you're looking for is where this folds up, okay? The way these fingers sit down on here is a little weird. All we need to do is just be centered. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, and we're just going to put a little bit of a bend in the middle. That's it. That's all we need. Nothing, I mean, very, very, very little. Now, we've kind of made these to where they're sticking in a little bit. That's an easy fix. You go ahead and come back, and you just put it in there, and you can just, by hand, you know, a lot of this is just eyeball it, you know. It's not that hard. And the nice thing about it, and that's all we needed, was just a very gentle, you guys can see in the middle, hole. And what I'm going to do is I'll get up and I'll put this in on each side and I'll mark, and then I'll use my Whitney punch and put holes in there. Let's go ahead and do the other one real quick. And I mean, there's a lot, you can have a lot of fun making a lot of stuff with sheet metal. Get that here on this side. That one and that one. So this time we won't go as far because we know we're going to have to pull it back a little. And well, let's just go ahead and put our little break in the middle here. Again, it doesn't have to be exact because it just has to be a, let's see, if we go that far, that'll work. I gotta use my other finger here. Let's see. And we'll just go that far. Just has to be general in the middle. That's it. That's all you need. And then this one, again, folding it up. where it's at 90 degrees. There you go. All this has to be is it's going to be catch oil and guide it back near the end. We don't have to have the back end folded up. Matter of fact, we don't want it to, because as everything moves, we don't want anything up the back. When I drill or when I put holes in this with the Whitney Punch, I'm going to actually mark it, and I didn't want to do it yet because each side is a little different. And then when you put it on, it's held on with 1032 screws on there, and that's something I'm going to have to go on and hold it on each piece. I thought about it, trying to lay it out ahead of time, but it was easier for me. Once I'm done and I've got it where I want it, then all I got to do is hold it up there like I want it, and we're going to just fold it in and be good. So there's some basic sheet metal working stuff for this project. Again, here's a Whitney Punch, you guys. All Industrial has these as well too. They're handy. They have both the name brand and the import. They're pretty handy to use. I've used this one a lot on a lot of stuff, and it's held up really well. If you get into the name brand ones, they can be very, very, very expensive. This does the same thing for a lot less. So there you go. You can also, if you don't have a pan brake, you can do a lot of what we talked about as far as folding up the edges of the material. If all you have is just some hand seamers on the end, we talked about that in the other video. Use your hand seamers, and then to get the long bend in the middle, you could do that first without the hand seamers. We talked about, using the edge of a table and just pressing it down. Same thing. I mean, just use your imagination. You don't have to have all the big expensive tools. Basic hand tools, you got the narrower hand seamers here, notchers. You don't have to have notchers. You can actually use just some basic snips and make your little V cuts. That way you're not having to do long lines. And it's an easy, sometimes because sheet metal is shiny, well, not sometimes, it is, and it's hard to see if you have a lot of light in the shop. That's why you put the little notches, so if you're working big long sheets, like me and my dad and I, like I said, I've talked about this before, growing up, we built all of our ductwork out of flat sheets. So we even had an 8-foot brake, building real long ductwork and stuff. So instead of having a long line, all you need to do is mark from each end, and then so you've got another person on the other side. It's like, okay, first notch, we're going to go 90 degrees. Okay, and then, the big brake handle, and we fold it up. Okay, 90 degrees, sounds good. Next, second notch, we're only going to go, or most of the stuff was 90-degree bends the vast majority of the time. And again, you kind of go a little more, okay, well, we need to fold it back. Sheet metal is very forgiving. Just some very basic stuff I wanted to show you guys. This wasn't a real complicated project. I finally had a sheet metal project that I could show, and it's very simple. If you're into metalworking, sheet metalworking, the sky's the limit on what kind of tools you can use, depending on whether you're doing body work, working on armor. Guys out there making Renaissance arm, for like old knights and stuff like that. Just projects, you want to make some boxes and shelves and things. There's a myriad of tooling out there. Just use your imagination. One hammer that I like using, and it's actually a bricklayer's hammer, believe it or not. And the reason I like it, and we've always done this, is, yeah, it's a bricklayer's hammer, and the reason we like it is because it's square, okay? Especially if you're, and now I had to go buy this one because my dad, I was like, hey Dad, can I get the, he's like, well, I'm using them. So I'm like, okay. So I went ahead and bought my own. It's a bricklayer's hammer. The reason I like it is when you're trying to make small stuff with out of sheet metal, the more you bend it, the more rigid it gets. Having 90-degree setups already, this already got magnetized. You can use this and this. Let's say you don't have a brake, or you don't have the $200 or whatever to get one of these to start off with. You go get you a hammer to start off with. So one of these bricklayer's hammers, they're 18 ounce, that, and some snips, or even the smaller ones, hand seamers, and that right there. And then the basic stuff I talked about, you can do a lot of sheet metal work. You can really get folds, or you want to get tight bends, and it's a good hammer. Now, when I'm hammering on metal and you want to do a fold with the piece inside of the pan brake here, you don't want to use metal. Use a rawhide hammer, and I've got it put back up over here. Let's see if I can find it here. Or you can use a wood hammer. There's several of them. You can use a dead blow. Here we go. So you don't want to use metal so you don't ding up your brakes, but you can use, you know, we talked about that. We got a leather mallet here, rawhide. So you're wanting to fold up, let's say, a small piece we were talking about. Where did I put them? Huh. Oh, here we go. Let's say we wanted to do a small piece real quick, and I'll just show you guys real quick. And you wanted to fold something up. We'll just do it here on the end. And let's just say, for example, due to whatever, you couldn't get it to fold up all the way and you wanted to bend it a little more. And you wanted to get that really tight. For whatever reason, let's say you had a bunch of other stuff here and you couldn't get it to fold all the way. There you go. You're not going to hurt it with either one of these. Do not use metal or brass or copper or lead, rubber, rawhide, and there you go. So there you go, just some basic stuff. I am going to have some more sheet metal working videos. I'll show you guys on another episode video of with it installed and everything. You know me, I don't like to show all the boring stuff, but something new and exciting, interesting. I am going to be doing some other metal bending for stuff in the house, but that's just, it's very basic, rudimentary, 90-degree bends on stuff. It's going to look pretty cool. I'll post pictures of it generally on social media, Instagram, EagleDustOff37, as well as Twitter. If you guys have any questions, hit me up. Comments in the bottom. Love it, you guys. Constructive stuff. If you have any questions about anything, holler at me. If you guys are interested in purchasing any stuff, again, look up All Industrial Tool Supply. They have a lot of stuff. There's a bunch of different places to get things, but you know what? Let's support a small 8-man company out in California. Let's show them the YouTube community love. You know what? They're working guys just like all of us are. And hey, let's support a small American company there. You know, they buy, sell all sorts of stuff. Hit them up. Request a master pack catalog. You can also look it up on the left hand side of the website under current sales flyers. That's where they have it. So there you go. Thanks again. Appreciate it. All Industrial Tool Supply. You guys are awesome. Like I always say, and I mean it at the end of every video, take care of yourself and take care of your family, because remember, at the end of the day, you and your family is all you got. Until next time, guys and gals, get out in the shop and make some sheet metal stuff. Your imagination is the only thing that's going to limit you on this stuff. You guys have fun. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.